Hey, folks, it's February the 23rd, and just as a heads up, this is a B week, so Friday is going to be a B day for you. Another thing is next Friday, grades freeze for report cards, so make sure if you have something late in a class, you turn that in. And tomorrow, I'm going to have a substitute teacher, so I'm going to post you an assignment tomorrow and Thursday. So we're going to have a lecture today, and we're going to have one on Friday. And then after we're done with the book, I'll let you know what we're going to progress on to next. Today, we're going over 2 chapters, chapters 126 and 127. So make sure you read that. And we have the following terms. We have Charles V's empire, Charles and Luther, as in Martin Luther, the Reformation's appeal, wars of religion and peace, Zwingli, and John Calvin. So we're going to have students in the classroom help us out with those terms in just a minute. But first, I'm going to talk about it for a bit. So if you remember, we often attribute the beginning of the Reformation to Martin Luther. If you remember, he was a theologian, a professor, and a monk who professed the idea of sola scriptura, like the idea that the tenets of Christianity can be found within the Bible alone, and that tradition doesn't really have that much to do with it. So that's going to catch on in throughout the German countries, and Germany was not unified at this time. I'm sorry, that's rude, y'all. Turn your voices off. So there's 300 principalities in Germany, but they're all kind of ruled and stitched together by the Holy Roman Empire. At this time, the Holy Roman Empire was ruled by a guy named Charles V. His father was the emperor of the Holy Roman Empire, which was Germany, Austria, the Netherlands, I think maybe some of Italy at this time, and some of Eastern Europe. But his mom was the queen of Spain. And if you remember, Spain had also almost all of the New World. And they were super, super rich. Yeah. As a what? Could be. But you see his chin here? That's a sign of essentially centuries of inbreeding. Royalty used to only marry royalty. And so the royal families, the kings and queens of Europe, were all related to each other and kept marrying into each other. And that led to genetic problems. He was known for having a pretty bad speech impediment and jaw deformity. The Habsburgs were well known for this big jaw and chin. Huh? Well, I wouldn't say all gypsies do that. But he, however, though he had good cognition. He was known as being a pretty intelligent man, a very hard worker. He was very religiously devout, right? So he was very all into the Catholic Church. And he saw what Martin Luther doing as something that was endangering people's souls. And so though he gave safe harbor to Martin Luther to voice his ideas, and he gave him a chance to recant, when Luther escaped from the Diet of Worms, he pretty much vowed to root out Protestantism, as specifically Lutheranism at this time. Here's a picture of Charles V's empire. As you see here, all of this yellow in the New World, and this was just dumping gold and silver into the Spanish Empire, which he inherited. And so he had all of this here. Not the blue, though. See, France and the Ottoman Empire and England and Portugal were not his. But a lot of what you see here in Germany, a lot of this orange and blue and yellow here, that was his as well. Some parts here in North Africa. And so the guy had the biggest empire on earth at the time, and it was on both hemispheres. So that's the first time anybody ever has an empire on 2 hemispheres. So, as your book said, a lot of these German princes, for their own reasons, some of them joined Luther for deep and legitimate religious reasons. Some of them, however, just wanted independence from the emperor. And so they banded together and formed a confederacy. A confederacy is whenever you have like a government, small governments joined together for mutual protection. Like so, but they don't make rules for each other essentially. And so we're going to have what's known as the religious wars. There's going to be off and on religious wars fought mostly in Germany for a very long time. This is going to be the first set of them. And the first set is essentially Lutheran versus Catholic, essentially. This is going to lead to a lot of death, and a lot of the people fighting are going to be mercenaries. And mercenaries were very cruel to the people around them. A lot of the villagers within Germany wound up starving, being run out of their towns. This is during a time period where simple muskets were starting to become the standard fare for warfare, which was totally eliminating the knighthood. Yeah, see, here you go. So at these times, these were matchlocks. So you see they'd have like little wicks, and they'd keep the little rope burning, and they kind of put it on the end of the barrel to basically like a firecracker, just set it off. I don't think flintlocks are around quite yet, but like armored knights and things like that are no longer going to be pivotal in warfare. It's going to be non-nobles, essentially trained warriors with guns. That's going to end that. I don't know why that picture's there. There's going to be religious persecutions as well. What makes this war so nasty and brutal is when one side wins against the other, they tend to kill the other soldiers as being heretics. So you have the really ugly nastiness of a civil war. And civil wars are terrible because you see each other as traitors. A religious war. So this is something that's cosmic. It's bigger than just money. But you're also going to have hired soldiers who don't really care about anybody around them. They're not really much better than pirates. They're mercenaries. So the level of cruelty and atrocities were very, very bad at this time. Eventually, however, we're going to have what's called the Peace of Augsburg. And during the Peace of Augsburg, you're going to have Charles V is going to be like, okay. You can either be Lutheran or Catholic, but it's up to your government. And so that's not what we call like, right to free religion or separation of church and state, but it's kind of a step in that direction. And it's the first time you're going to ever have that within any society. So that's going to be kind of like the standard thing throughout Europe for a long time. All right, so you go on to Sweden. You have Zwingli, who's a guy who had ideas that were similar to Martin Luther. And much like Luther, he's going to have a lot of the people around him lead the Catholic Church and essentially live like Lutherans, like live towards personal study of scriptures within your own language, getting rid of a lot of the smells and the bells of like an old school Catholic service where you had a lot of ritual and things like that. They're going to move away from ritual. John Calvin, he's a trained French lawyer who is very deeply religious, but he's going to study theology. And he's going to approach the Bible through a very legalistic standpoint. John Calvin's going to come up with something that actually had been touched on by early Christians a long time ago, but it's going to kind of fall out for a while. And it's called, what is it? Predestination. The idea that people who are born, because of God's infallible knowledge and perfection, he knows what's going to happen to you before you're even born. And therefore, God already knows if you're going to be damned to hell or saved to heaven. And there are certain signs on who is saved and who is already damned. But it's going to get rid of the idea that personal choice or that acts of charity and things like that actually have that much purpose within your salvation, in a sense. Calvinists are going to be very austere. Whenever you think about like the Pilgrims later on, when you take your U.S. history, this is essentially what the Pilgrims and the Puritans are going to be based on as Calvinists. So getting rid of things that might represent occasion of sin, such as dancing, drinking, celebrating, singing, stuff like that. Things that could possibly lead people into temptation. Totally doing away with society, but also a complete mesh between religion and government. It's a theology. The laws of the Bible are also the laws of the community. And so as he goes to Geneva, he's going to essentially make a very strict religious-based society. Geneva is going to be very prosperous, and Calvinist ideas are going to take hold, especially in places like Scotland, and then start moving into England, and then eventually into the 13 colonies in America. And so we're going to have this one disagreement between him and a theologian, Michael Servetus, your book mentioned. And Servetus had some ideas that Calvin saw was heretical, so he had him burnt at the stake. So we're going to see that persecutions like this are going to go all around. So it's not just going to be one church. You're going to have others as well. So pretty ugly period at time. All right, kids. Once again, we have these terms up on the board. Charles V's Empire, Charles of Luther, the Reformation's Appeal, Wars of Religion and Peace, Zwingli, and John Calvin. Yeah, let's start on the bottom. All right, let's do it. Come on, guys. Huh? Yeah, go ahead. All right, John Calvin it is. Tell us about Calvin.
What? We're starting at the bottom.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. All that catch up.
Girl.
What's going on? What's going on?
I brought one. Like, can you get a little star in here?
See red.
Okay, well, let's see it in the star. There you go.
Yeah.
Come on, you don't know.
Actually, I might work during the week and see if I can like get the games on. Since
Like, I'm like this all day, and I'm like, quarantine really messed me up. I know, like, every time I'm like this.
Hey, Jude. What's your last class? What do you have fifth period?
Fifth period, geometry.
Oh, man. Okay. Office told me I have to pull some students for something. I might have to get you later.
Just smacks me.
Good job. So John Calvin, Frenchman who settled in Geneva His most important work was the Institutes of Christian Religion. I actually meant to read it, I never got to it. Translated the Bible into French, sometimes called the Protestant Pope. Set many strict laws. Yeah, he was known for his austerity. Hey, good job. All right, so next one, let's see from somebody up north, Zwingli. So,
How do you say that?
Zwingli, I think it's Zwingli. Man.
You gotta say the W.
Yeah, let me Zwingli. Let me Googleize it. Yeah, I don't think he really influenced a lot of American-based churches very heavily, but yeah, he's definitely a sola scriptura guy.
Oh, I haven't used it in a long time. I have to use that.
Let me look up the pronunciation. I've read a little bit about him. Just because you read about something doesn't mean you know how to say it.
It's more like in a W.
That makes sense to me.
I'm gonna show you.
I can tell.
Here we go.
There is a hospital down there.
Leave me alone. Play the video.
Probably on the roof.
The only reason I want to work is because I want to see.
He's saying Zwingli, like a swing.
That's not.
My cousin's. I'll get you like a stick.
Use paper.
Oh, it's because it's not signed in. Okay.
That's now.
Did you learn? There's no E.
Actually, it's a lot of, it's a lot of work.
Why didn't you give that to me? I want it.
Oh, wait, I got that. I put it on the back of my helmet.
Take this
Still on the
down.
back of my helmet.
Maybe.
That's
Stick
the
that
one.
in.
Sharp on my helmet.
This awesome.
Oh,
How much was it on? Like,
yeah.
I'm not gonna say that.
I was
How
just
much
saying I
was
ran
the
over
pen?
a couple of times and I didn't know where it went.
oh my God, for
Let's just
one
say
pen?
it's had a swirl.
That's cheap.
Yeah. You gotta keep.
You stab in the eye.
There you go.
Why not see?
Your
Oh, yeah.
face.
You know what it looks like? Just shells. Show me. Yeah, I know you did. Give it to me.
C-U-R-I-C.
Don't we all need
Works in my handwriting.
Well, my handwriting is fine, but I'm writing down all this.
My handwriting's fine, I just write small.
You need
Yeah,
a word mirror.
Mine's okay.
Robert.
Robert here.
Robert, my boy,
Robert over here is just like, what is it?
Debit or credit.
I've just left you distracted and stuff.
That's usual, like anytime.
I know.
It's like,
We could do
all you
something
do
very
is
much
shake
like
your
this.
finger on Facebook.
I don't have
Why are you
faith.
using your grandma?
You should have done it.
I was in a mobile home. How do I have a face?
But we had brisket mashed potatoes, broccoli, and I put so
No.
You lied to me.
No.
No.
All right, so Zwingli, he was a contemporary, but not disciple of Luther. Yeah, but they kind of believed the same thing. Proclaimed scriptures at the Cathedral of Zurich, and sole guide of the faith and divided the supremacy of the Pope. Yeah, so yeah, he was like Bible alone and don't need a Pope. So yeah. All right, next one: Wars of Religion and the peace that followed. So all right, super friends. Got it.
Oh, that's gonna be funny.
Yeah, go ahead.
Really good. Huh? I hate you. Dang it. You missed it.
Well, it was like.
Maybe you don't put on your ear until that's like season.
I don't know about it. I was talking to myself.
You gotta take a big look for that. Wait,
Right.
It's been that way ever since I was. Well.
What you do?
When did it come up? She looked at me.
When did you see it bumped up?
Oh,
Actually, was it nine?
Everyone.
All
What did everything I found? You know why we did this? It's like,
Cause house is like.
Yeah.
It's really cost $1 million.
I was going slow too. Good, slow.
Stop singing that.
There's a song for small, more.
Stop.
There's more.
Sing that a little bit. It's the only part you remember. Is that song?
I don't know. What are you singing?
No, not over.
What part of it?
Yeah. So. If I look at the judges.
Go, girl. It was.
It came from out my mouth.
Yeah,
I knew I thought, yeah.
I was like, oh, there, fine.
That was so close. This is like singing. You gotta go from the diaphragm.
Ooh, does the silver one work song?
All of colors.
Not that one.
Because it's in closer. So from one side.
Oh, yeah, I know that. What part were you singing? Wait.
Oh, you can work that.
I know
I had longer. They close at 10. So
it's supposed to be a natural song.
I can tell.
So that's 6 hours of work. Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah. So from on the weekend.
I do have the weekend.
All right. So Charles brought troops to end the League by force. That's the German League. Ended badly. They eventually found peace with the Peace of Augsburg. People had to decide if they were Lutherans or others. Now, it wasn't that the government got to choose. So the government picked your religion. So if you lived in one place where the prince said, "One, you're a Lutheran." The place where you was Catholic, you were Catholic. Very good. Next one. So the Reformation's appeal. So why did people pick Lutheranism?
Dang, girl. We need like a sticker or something
Red bubble. I like off brand. It's like off brand.
Where's the gold one?
I hate you.
Me.
So that you can-
No, there's a gold.
Oh,
I want to know what are you doing?
But I picked it up for you, so you can do it.
His name Chad Colvin.
Hey, the phone up.
Because I know the guy.
Yeah, you keep your notes on that. I forgot. I bet.
I forgot it.
Maybe I should do no big program in my mouth. I didn't want to see that.
I can do it, it's fine. Too much.
I need some entertainment.
Not next time.
It does.
When school is in session. So if we start
My grandma was going to show me. Did.
I cried.
She said, it's like 10 times.
You have to cut your hair.
No, oh my God, I actually cried. That would be what you think. I call it in the office.
13 hours times 3.
Abstract is what makes my And art shows, what do you send us every stuff?
Beautiful. A book flower.
Thing is, all closed. Yeah, well, take a shot.
There you go. Just run it over.
Why you put it behind the truck? Roll it right over. You'll burn out.
Look at that one.
I'm so upset.
I already got cracked.
Her, Ella.
You'll burn out, and it's got new tires.
Absolutely.
Those are tires.
Absolutely.
No.
Yes, and I'm fine.
It's not tires.
That's
It's
like,
not burn out. It's just tires. You're just spitting tires.
that release.
Was there some smoke coming out of this?
It's a shelf.
Yeah.
What?
What do you think they're going?
Food.
What?
So I got space in my mouth.
It burn out. That sucks.
Did you say she only got space or she don't have space?
She only.
Oh, okay.
She got big old crappy tires.
Silly.
Take a mouthful of water. Talking that.
No.
Is that what? Is that what college you're talking?
She's talking Zoe, that's what she said. Right at the other.
When you drink it, I can rewind. Yeah.
I'm so tired of this.
Do you like drinking and drink?
What?
I do not like the taste of water.
Hey, all right. Yeah, so Reformation's appeal. Reformation in Germany had a wide appeal. Patriotic Germans, it was seen as a revolt against the power of the papacy. To the pious people, it offered the attractions of simple faith. Awesome.
That's not what he does. I mean, well, he does, but he doesn't. That's a believer, but that's what he's intending.
All right, good job, babe.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
looks pretty good. Yeah, we don't have to make it too long. All right, very good, folks. Hey, next one. Luther, Charles and Luther.
That one?
Huh?
It's gonna be Christmas
What?
time. Come on, Chevy, you do
All
it.
right, Charles and Luther.
Shelby,
This
Shelby, you
Do
do
I
it.
look like I wanna write?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I watched all of it last night.
Yes, I
No, she did.
That's true, I can't read.
I just like it.
Where'd you go?
Good friends. All right.
What did the voice in?
There's chairs.
Huh?
There's chairs.
I wrote last time, it's Colin's turn.
Okay, but.
You better wait for her to come back.
I will.
Are you saying she bailed out on you?
Colin, you're sleeping up or?
More than likely. Goodness.
I get it?
That's
No,
why there's a chair.
getting
Oh,
worse.
okay, shut up.
Good.
It's a longer reach.
I just like you.
Okay. Wow.
I am on your side about this.
So I just like you.
I know.
That's so
I'm
cool.
just saying.
Oh, yeah.
You actually don't
Okay,
like
Shelby.
them.
Hey.
There it is.
You just don't care.
Yeah.
Hang on.
He's.
The only guy you like is Colin.
I'm just-
That is correct. I wouldn't be surprised.
No.
Luther
really
I know.
I get 234. And.
I'm just trying to hear.
Now, leave, Rob.
Try to take notes.
So then we're gonna make Catholic.
Only the southern part. The northern part was Lutheran.
Okay. Whoa. Okay. Catholic. Is that right?
Got it.
Catholic.
All right, so Charles was Roman Catholic, anti-Reformation. Yep. People liked Luther's teachings. Lutheranism spread throughout Germany. Southern part remained Catholic. Yep. Of course, we've got the whole war thing. Hey, Alondra, you're just gonna have to get her to pay you back another way because we're like almost out of time. Can you get the last one for us?
Girl.
Yeah. Thank you.
Watch it, you're gonna start writing and she's gonna come back.
That's okay.
Colin,
Do you want to like grab Bo or somebody and just tell them to write?
Anybody? No?
No, don't ask. Tell.
Tell.
Hey,
Tell
somebody.
someone you don't like Alondra.
Okay.
Zoe.
I don't know. It was very vague about the entire.
Well, what was his lands like? Like, what did he own? And the desert.
It is not that way.
That's a big part of it. That's gonna be a big headache for him.
I don't want to touch
Yeah, so you're back.
And his son, if I remember right. Philip.
What?
She'll be so strong.
I know.
That's a big outfit.
Oh.
Alondra, do you need a chair?
No, I'm great.
I seriously feel like.
Yes, he had the Habsburg lands.
Or table.
No.
I think it's fat shamed over here. You periods later, it's like, you're so skinny, Colin.
When have I ever?
I probably more like that, like what?
10 minutes left.
I'm gonna go central.
Oh, yeah.
Nope.
She is. She was
What
asking
was
about
the
you.
thing here?
Very suspicious. She knew she was in the wrong table. She left.
I called it.
I'm done.
But wait, what about like
I've been saying that.
the Americas and Spain and Germany?
About the Americans.
It did too. I even showed you maps. Like Mexico and South America.
You can have all these songs.
No, it's okay. It's okay. All right, folks, that's gonna be it for today. We'll pick back up on Friday.
You know you love me.
Ariel really